My ex-wife announced her pregnancy to the whole family, trying to trap me with someone else's baby. I responded with medical records, proving I've been sterile since childhood. Hey Reddit, I'm Noah, 34 male. My wife told the whole family that I got her pregnant before she told me. Got called a deadbeat dad by all relatives, but surprise, surprise, I'm sterile. 63 relatives were in that group chat when she dropped the bomb. Both sides of the family. Aunts, uncles, cousins, her parents, my parents, her grandmother, who only ever posts prayer requests and garden photos. Everyone we'd ever shared a holiday meal with was watching when she lit the fuse on my life. The message hit at 7:40 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was eating leftover Chinese in the one-bedroom apartment I'd been renting since we separated 2 months earlier. 3 years married, 2 months separated. Zero communication between us, except through lawyers arguing over who gets the furniture. And she announces a pregnancy to literally everyone we know before saying a single word to me about it. The message itself was crafted. You could tell she'd worked on it. I want to share some news. I'm pregnant. I know the timing isn't ideal given everything that's happened, but I believe every child is a blessing. I'm asking for prayers and support during this difficult time as I prepare to be a single mother. The father knows who he is. My phone blew up before I finished reading it. Her mother called first, already crying, asking if it was true and why she had to find out this way. Then my mother, confused and upset, asking what on earth was going on. Then her sister. Then my brother. Then people I hadn't talked to in years suddenly had opinions about what kind of man I was. I sat there in my kitchen watching notifications stack up, lo mein getting cold, and felt my stomach drop. Not panic exactly, something worse. That feeling when you know exactly what's happening and you can't do a thing to stop it. The chat exploded over the next hour. Her relatives sent heart emojis and prayers and promises of support. My relatives sent confused messages asking for context. Someone's cousin twice removed posted a Bible verse about fathers. Her grandmother, who could barely work her phone on a good day, somehow managed to type out a long message about blessings and reconciliation and how she was praying for everyone. Here's what nobody in that chat knew. What my wife didn't know. What I'd never told anyone in my adult life, because it's not exactly something you bring up over dinner. When I was 12 years old, I got diagnosed with testicular cancer. Caught it early because I told my parents something felt wrong down there. Mom thought it was a hernia. Took me to the doctor expecting nothing. 2 days later, I was sitting in an oncologist's office at Phoenix Children's. A week after that, surgery. 6 months of chemo followed. Lost my hair twice. Lost 25 pounds off a frame that didn't have much to spare. Spent most of 7th grade either in the hospital or too sick to leave the house. Friends came by at first, then stopped when it was clear I wasn't getting better on any schedule they understood. Nobody knew what to say to the kid who might be dying. I missed basketball tryouts, school dances, all the normal kid stuff that seemed so important back then. Got used to adults looking at me with that expression people have when they're not sure you're going to make it. Teachers being extra nice. Relatives showing up with casseroles. You know, I beat it, obviously. Wouldn't be writing this if I hadn't. No recurrence in over 20 years, and doctors say there probably never will be. I got lucky with the timing and the type, but the treatment wrecked my fertility. The doctor explained it during a follow-up when I was 15. The chemo drugs wiped out my sperm production. Azoospermia, the medical term. Permanent. I got tested twice more over the years, just to be sure. Once at 20, when I was in a relationship getting serious. Once at 26 during a routine physical. Same result both times. 0 count. I never told my wife. We got married fast, maybe too fast, after dating only 8 months. The kid conversation never came up seriously before things started falling apart for other reasons. Money problems, her family being too involved, the usual stuff that kills marriages. I figured I'd tell her eventually if we ever got to the point of actually trying for a baby. We never did. By the time the marriage was clearly over, it didn't seem to matter anymore. Now it mattered a lot. Messages kept flooding in all evening. Her aunt sent a long paragraph about family values and taking responsibility. Her cousin posted another Bible verse about fathers who abandon children. Someone I didn't even recognize sent a crying emoji about the innocent baby caught in the middle of adult drama. By 9 p.m., I snapped. Did something stupid. Something I'd regret for weeks. I typed a reply straight into the group chat. Didn't think it through. Didn't call my brother for advice. Didn't talk to my lawyer. Just reacted like an idiot who thought facts would matter to people who'd already made up their minds. I can't be the father. I've been medically sterile since I was 12 due to cancer treatment. I have documentation going back to my teens. I don't know what's going on here, but that baby isn't mine and can't be mine. Sent it before I could talk myself out of it. Chat went dead silent for 30 seconds. Those 30 seconds felt like an hour. Then the replies started coming. Her mother, this is a new low, even for you. Using your childhood illness as an excuse to abandon your responsibility. I'm praying for your soul. Her father, men who make excuses instead of stepping up aren't men at all. Her cousin, wow. Just wow. I can't believe what I'm reading. Then my own aunt, who I thought might actually hear me out. Honey, I think you need to talk to someone professional. This isn't healthy behavior. In trying to defend myself with the truth, I'd handed her exactly what she needed. Now I wasn't just some deadbeat who left his pregnant wife. I was a guy so desperate to escape he was making up cancer stories. I was mentally unstable. I needed professional help. My phone rang. Mom, what is wrong with you? You can't say things like that in front of everyone. Whether it's true or not, that's not how you handle this. Mom, it is true. I have the records. I've been sterile since the chemo. Then why have you never told anyone? Why didn't you tell her before you got married? Why is this the first any of us are hearing about it? I didn't have an answer. Over 20 years of keeping quiet because I was embarrassed, because I didn't know how to bring it up, because I kept waiting for a right moment that never came. She was right. I'd made everything worse. The next 3 days taught me how fast a lie becomes an accepted truth when you've already lost control of the framing. My group chat response didn't create doubt about her claims. It made people feel sorry for her and disgusted by me. By Wednesday morning, the story had locked in solid. Desperate husband invents cancer story to dodge responsibility for pregnant wife. Her mother had screenshot my message and shared it in at least 2 other family group chats, along with commentary about how heartbreaking it was that I'd stooped to using my childhood illness as a shield for cowardice. My wife called my mother directly Wednesday morning. I heard about it later. Tearful conversation about how scared she was about the pregnancy, how deeply hurt by what I'd written in front of everyone, how she'd barely slept since reading it, said she was actually worried about me, said my message showed signs of someone who wasn't mentally well and might need professional intervention, asked if maybe the family could encourage me to get some kind of help. Mom called me right after that conversation. Did you abandon your pregnant wife? I need the real truth, not whatever performance that was last night in the chat. Mom, the sterility thing is real. I have records from doctors going back to when I was 15 years old. 3 separate tests over the years. Same result every single time, 0 count. Then why didn't you tell anyone? Why didn't you tell her before you got married? Why is this the first I'm hearing that my own son can't have children? I didn't have a better answer than the one you already heard. I kept it private, and now it was biting me in public. I need you to not talk to anyone else until I figure this out. Please, figure it out fast. Because right now, you look like a liar and a coward to everyone who knows you, including your own family. By Thursday, mutual friends started sending those not taking sides texts that were absolutely taking sides. 2 guys from college basically copy-pasted the same message. A couple we used to double date with just stopped answering. Her version spread because she was telling it to anyone who would listen, and because my clumsy attempt to tell the truth had blown up in my face. My version didn't spread because nobody believed me. I'd posted the truth directly in the family group chat, and it got immediately reframed as evidence that I was losing my grip on reality. Every fact I stated became more proof that I was cracking up. In Phoenix, word travels fast when you've been running in the same circles for years. Church community, neighborhood connections, overlapping work networks. The way everyone seems to know everyone else's business through 2 or 3 degrees of separation. All the small-town dynamics that make privacy impossible were now working against me hard. Grocery store got awkward fast. Ran into her aunt at the Fry's on Baseline, and she looked at me like I'd personally insulted her family before turning and walking the opposite direction down the aisle without saying a word. The gym got awkward too. A guy I'd spotted on bench press for years suddenly developed shoulder problems whenever I needed help. Started making excuses every time I asked. I switched to early morning sessions when nobody from our usual crowd was around. Church was obviously out of the question. Her family had been members there for 2 generations, and half the congregation had probably seen the screenshots by now. I wasn't about to sit through a service surrounded by people who thought I was the kind of guy who'd make up cancer stories to avoid being a father. Even my apartment building felt different. The manager gave me a look when I picked up a package from the office one afternoon, and I couldn't tell if she'd heard something specific or if I was just becoming paranoid about everyone. Probably both. Her dad texted me Friday afternoon. Written message, not a voicemail, so there'd be a permanent record of what he said. Told me he'd always considered me part of the family, but that real men take responsibility for their actions, regardless of the circumstances. Said he was praying I'd find the courage to step up and do the right thing before it was too late. Said his daughter deserved a lot better than what I was putting her through during such a vulnerable time in her life. I typed out 3 different responses and deleted all of them. Nothing I could say was going to change his mind without proving the medical situation first, and I didn't have that proof organized in any form that would actually matter. Her mother posted in the family chat Friday evening. Long message about the challenges her daughter was facing as a single expectant mother and how the whole family needed to step up and support her right now. Mentioned that baby supplies were getting expensive and that single motherhood was financially hard even with family help. Said she was setting up a fund to help with costs and that every little contribution would make a difference. Included her Venmo handle. Mentioned they'd already received over $400 in donation. They were actively fundraising off the lie, taking real money from relatives and church members and family friends and probably strangers who saw shared posts, all of whom believed they were helping an abandoned pregnant woman whose husband had suffered some kind of mental breakdown. My brother texted late Friday night, first contact from him since the initial explosion. Said he honestly didn't know what to believe, but that our parents were really struggling with all of this. Said mom had been crying on and off for days. Said dad wasn't talking much, which was never a good sign with him. Said he thought I should come over for dinner Sunday and try to explain things in person, away from the group chat circus. I said I'd think about it. I didn't go. Every day I stayed quiet, she filled the silence with her version of events. But every time I tried to speak up, I made everything worse. I was losing ground and I didn't know how to recover. She texted me Saturday morning, first direct contact since the bomb dropped. Long message, carefully written. Said she understood I was upset about everything. Things got out of control in ways neither of us intended. She didn't want to fight through lawyers and family members. Maybe we could meet and talk, just the two of us like adults. Figure out a path forward that didn't destroy everyone involved. Coffee shop near our old house. I should have kept it through attorneys. I didn't. I said yes. My thinking at the time. The group chat disaster happened because I reacted without any proof ready. If I could sit down with her and calmly explain the medical situation face to face, maybe she'd realize I wasn't making things up. Maybe she'd drop the act. Maybe she was genuinely confused about who the father was. Maybe she'd been with someone else and actually believed I was the father through some messed up timeline math. Or maybe, if I laid out the facts clearly enough, she'd admit what was really going on, and we could sort this out without dragging my cancer history through family court and putting it on some public record for anyone to find. Worth a shot, I figured. I was wrong. The coffee shop was packed when I got there. She was already seated at a small table by the front window, where anyone walking by outside could see us clearly. Looking back, she wanted to be seen. Conversation started off fine. She talked about wanting what's best for the baby, regardless of what happened between us. Co-parenting effectively, even if the marriage was done. Understanding I might need time to process everything. Then, she leaned in and asked the question she'd come to ask. Are you still planning to deny being the father? Even after what you said in the chat? I'm not denying anything. I'm sterile, and I can prove it with records and a current test. You keep saying that. But you never told me during our entire marriage. You never told anyone. And now suddenly it's convenient? It's the truth. If you want, I'll show you the records. She shook her head slowly. Expression shifted to something that looked like genuine sadness. I really hoped you'd come here ready to be honest with me, to face this like a man instead of hiding behind stories. Guess I was wrong about the kind of man you are. She stood up, grabbed her purse, said she'd pray for me, and walked out of the coffee shop while I sat there trying to figure out what had just happened. 20 minutes later, I checked my phone in the parking lot. She'd already messaged her mother, who'd already shared it to the family chat. He's still sticking to the sterile story. He looked me in the eye and lied to my face in public. I offered him grace, and he threw it back. I'm devastated. I walked in thinking I could reason with her. Walked out having made everything worse for the second time in 4 days. Monday morning, I sat in a family lawyer's office in Tempe, explaining the worst month of my life. Guy named Garrett, early 60s, tired eyes that came from decades of watching families rip each other apart over money and kids. He listened to everything without interrupting. The group chat announcement, my stupid impulsive response, the coffee shop trap, the fundraising campaign, all of it. When I finished, he set his pen down and asked the one question that actually mattered. When was your last fertility test? 8 years ago, when I was 26. That's a problem. Courts hear men claim they're sterile all the time. Half of them turn out to be wrong or lying. I've had cases where a guy swore up and down he'd had a vasectomy. Then DNA came back proving he was the father anyway. If we're going to fight this, we need current medical verification from a specialist who can testify if it comes to that. Your old records from childhood are a starting point, but her lawyer will argue things could have changed over the years. He slid a document across the desk. Her attorney had already filed a motion for temporary spousal support based on the pregnancy and my alleged abandonment. The filing made me sound erratic and unstable, a man making up increasingly desperate medical excuses to avoid his responsibilities as a father. Hearing scheduled in 3 weeks. If we don't have current verification by that date, we walk in with your word against hers. And based on everything you've told me about the group chat and everything after, your word isn't worth much to anyone right now. The next few days were a crash course in how slowly medical bureaucracy moves when you need it to move fast. My original oncologist retired years ago. His practice got absorbed by a larger medical group with offices all over the valley. My old records existed somewhere in their archive system, but actually getting copies meant filling out forms, getting stuff notarized, and waiting through a 2-week processing time that had nothing to do with my court calendar. The woman on the phone sounded genuinely sorry when she explained the timeline, but sorry didn't help me. Finding a urologist who could run new testing was its own separate headache. The first office I called had a 5-week wait for new patients. Too long. The second wanted $800 up front because they didn't take my insurance and wouldn't negotiate. Third, I could maybe see me Thursday, but needed a referral from my primary care doctor first, which meant scheduling another appointment before I could even get to the one that mattered. The whole system felt designed to slow everything down. Wednesday afternoon, I gave my doctor the short version and asked for an urgent referral for fertility testing. He didn't know what to make of it, but he ran with it. Why didn't you mention the childhood cancer during previous visits? It never came up during sinus infections and blood pressure checks. He put in the referral. 5 to 7 business days for results. Meanwhile, her lawyer sent a formal letter demanding immediate response to the support motion. My lawyer filed for a continuance citing pending medical evaluation. Judge granted us 10 extra days, but made clear that further delays wouldn't be tolerated. Thursday night, I sat alone in my apartment running worst-case scenarios. If the test results came back late, or if there was any kind of administrative screw-up, I'd be walking into that hearing with nothing but my claims against hers. My word had already been publicly destroyed by the group chat disaster and the coffee shop setup. Hers had family sympathy, church support, and a fundraising campaign collecting real money behind it. The proof existed in my own body. Getting it documented and into court before she buried me was starting to feel like a coin flip. Results came back, Tuesday, day 8. Azoospermia confirmed. 0 viable sperm, consistent with chemotherapy damage. Urologist put it in writing and said he could testify in court if needed. The lawyer called it exactly what we needed, but the 8 days it took to get those results weren't quiet. The previous Thursday, someone had called my employer. I work as a project engineer for a commercial electrical contractor. Good company, solid reputation, been around for 20 years. The kind of firm that bids on hospital expansions and school renovations and government contracts. Jobs where clients actually care about who's walking around their buildings. The caller was female, according to our receptionist, expressed concerns about my personal situation, and asked whether the company was aware that I was involved in a domestic matter that might affect my reliability and stability. Used those words specifically. Reliability and stability. Like she'd practiced the phrasing beforehand. Didn't leave a name or callback number. My boss pulled me into his office Friday afternoon, closed the door behind us. Not trying to pry into your personal life, but I got a strange call this morning from someone asking questions about your stability. Said she was a concerned family member. Is there something going on I should know about? Going through a bad separation. Wife's making false claims about me. Handling it through lawyers. He nodded slowly. Appreciate you for being straight with me. Company policy is we stay out of employees' personal stuff. But if this kind of thing keeps showing up at work, we'll need to have a different conversation. We've got contracts with clients who expect reliability from people we put on their sites. One call was a warning. More calls would become my problem professionally. The same week, my landlord left a voicemail about a noise complaint filed against my unit. Someone who didn't actually live in my building had claimed I was having loud arguments at all hours and disturbing other residents. I'd been there 2 months and barely talked to my neighbors beyond nodding in the hallway. Called him back and explained that I was going through a contentious divorce and the complaint was almost certainly filed by someone connected to my ex-wife. He said he believed me but was required to document everything regardless of what he personally thought. Said if more complaints showed up, we'd have to discuss my lease situation. 2 days later, another complaint arrived. This one claimed I'd left trash in the hallway and been hostile to a neighbor who asked about it. Complete garbage. I hadn't had a conversation with anyone in that hallway beyond saying good morning. She was going after every part of my life she could reach, creating a paper trail that made me look unstable and difficult. If this went to an extended court fight, she could point to employer concerns and housing complaints as proof that I was barely keeping it together. Then her sister showed up. Sunday evening around 7. Knocked on my door without any warning. I almost didn't answer. But through the peephole she looked nervous, kept checking over her shoulder like she didn't want anyone to see her there. I opened up. She stepped inside quickly. Can't stay long, can't be seen here. But I know what my sister is doing is wrong, and I need to tell you something before this goes any further. Go ahead. She's not confused about who the father is. She knows exactly who it is, and has known all along. His name is Craig. He's her supervisor at the insurance company where she works. They've been sleeping together for almost a year. I heard a phone call 2 months ago where she was crying to him about being pregnant, and he was telling her to handle it quietly because his wife absolutely could not find out. Craig Holloway, senior claims manager, married with 2 kids. The guy my wife had mentioned casually a dozen times over the past year whenever she talked about work stuff. Always positive comments about him, how smart he was, how he really got the business, how he was the only competent manager in her whole department, how he always backed her up. Funny how that made a lot more sense now. Why are you telling me this? Because she's about to destroy an innocent man's life over a lie, and I can't be part of it anymore. I won't testify or get involved publicly. It would tear my family apart completely. But you deserve to know the truth so you can protect yourself. She left 30 seconds later. Never heard from her again after that night. She didn't come to comfort me or offer support. She came to hand me a grenade, pulled the pin, and disappeared before anyone knew she'd been there. Told my lawyer about Craig Monday morning. He said be careful how we use it. Can't just throw names around without proof. But we could note in our court response that there might be another potential father and ask for genetic testing before anyone decides who pays what. Filing didn't name Craig directly, just said there was reason to believe someone else could be the father and asked the court to figure out paternity before making any decisions about my responsibility. Pretty standard move in contested cases, apparently. That was enough to blow everything up. Within 2 days, Craig's wife found out. Not from our filing, which was still working through the system. She found out because my wife panicked hard when she realized testing was coming and there was no way around it. From what I heard later through various people, my wife called Craig the second she found out about the testing request. Things got heated fast. Craig started backpedaling hard. Maybe the timeline doesn't work out. Maybe there's someone else you haven't mentioned to me. Maybe we should both talk to lawyers before saying anything else. She did not take that well. She texted him a bunch of stuff that night that was anything but subtle. You know exactly whose baby this is. You don't get to walk away from this now. I kept records of every single time we were together. Craig's wife had been suspicious for months. Little things that didn't add up. Late nights at work that never seemed to produce anything. Phone calls he took in another room. She'd been waiting for a reason to check his phone. And that night she found one. Checked it while he was in the shower after hearing it buzz repeatedly. Found everything. The panicked conversation from that day. Older messages she didn't know about. Enough to confirm what she'd been thinking. Neighbors heard the screaming through the walls that night. His wife called a divorce lawyer first thing the next morning. Craig tried the classic move of claiming nothing physical ever happened, just emotional support that got out of hand. That story lasted about 5 minutes once she started asking specific questions about dates and location, and why exactly a coworker would be texting him about a pregnancy if nothing was going on. By the end of the week, Craig had packed a bag and was staying at a hotel off the 101. His wife hired some aggressive family law attorney out of Scottsdale that people said was known for going after cheating husbands hard. Word got back to their employer through the usual channels. Someone who knew someone who overheard the wife talking about the whole mess. HR opened a formal investigation into potential policy violation. Boss sleeping with direct report. Pregnancy and questions about whether any employment decisions or performance reviews had been influenced by the relationship. Questions about whether company resources had been used to facilitate anything inappropriate. My wife got placed on administrative leave pending the investigation. Craig got suspended the same day. Neither one of them saw that coming, apparently. The donation situation turned into its own separate disaster. Multiple people from her department had contributed to the baby fund based on her tearful story about being abandoned by her mentally unstable husband. $20 contributions, $50 contributions, people chipping in because they felt bad for a pregnant coworker going through a hard time. When the real story started leaking through the office gossip network, several of them wanted their money back. That generated HR complaints about using company communication channels for personal fundraising and creating a hostile work environment by deceiving coworkers into donating money under false pretenses. Meanwhile, her lawyer sent a letter about settling. Totally different tone from everything before. No more aggressive demands about support and what I owed her. No more language about my mental instability or medical fabrication. Just talk about finding a reasonable resolution that didn't require more court dates and public testimony. She wanted to cut a deal and pretend the last 3 months never happened. I told my lawyer to write back one sentence. We look forward to the paternity testing. The test happened 2 weeks later. Court supervised, properly documented, Chain of custody the whole way. No way for anyone to argue with the results or claim something got contaminated or messed up. I wasn't the father. Couldn't be. My medical paperwork went into evidence without any objection from her side. Craig got ordered to submit a sample. His lawyer told him refusing would only make everything worse and could result in the court just assuming paternity anyway. Results came back 10 days later and confirmed what everyone already figured by that point. He was the biological father. Her whole case against me fell apart overnight. Support motion got dropped immediately. Her lawyer stopped returning calls from my lawyer. We could have gone after her for everything she'd put me through over those months. The defamation, the calls to my employer, the fake housing complaints. My lawyer said we probably had a decent shot at damages, but that would have meant more months in court, more legal fees, more of my time and energy spent dealing with her instead of moving on with my life. I thought about it for a few days, ran the numbers on what litigation would cost versus what I might actually recover. I decided I wanted out more than I wanted revenge or a payout. The final divorce hearing was a Thursday in late March. Nice Phoenix spring day, mid-70s, clear sky, light breeze. I'd been through the courthouse enough times by then that the security guys recognized my face. Divorce was getting finalized that day, separate from the paternity mess, which had already been resolved weeks earlier. This hearing was just paperwork. I kept my retirement accounts. She kept the house but had to refinance within 90 days to get my name off the mortgage. Clean split. No kids, no ongoing financial ties, no legal reason to ever communicate again. The hearing took 15 minutes. The judge confirmed both parties had agreed on the terms. Papers got signed. Marriage is officially over. I walked into the hallway expecting to head straight for the elevator and get on with my life. She was waiting by the water fountain near the bathrooms. Not by accident, deliberately positioned right where I'd have to walk past her to reach the elevators. I knew that look on her face immediately, the softened expression she used whenever she wanted something from someone. Seen it 100 times during our marriage. Seen her use it on her parents, on coworkers, on strangers in checkout lines. I know things got ugly between us. Mistakes were made on both sides. I never wanted any of this to happen the way it did. Maybe someday, when everything settles down and emotions aren't so raw, we could sit down like adults and talk about everything that went wrong. I let her finish without interrupting. When she was done, she tilted her head. Do you have anything to say? I thought about everything I could tell her. The destroyed relationships with family members and friends I'd known for years. The stress of having someone call my employer, asking questions about my stability. I could have unloaded the whole list. Everything. But none of it would matter to her. She was just checking if she still had any pull over me. Kept it short. Check your Venmo. I hear refund requests are piling up. I walked past her without waiting for a response. Hit the elevator button. She said something behind me, but I didn't catch what it was. The doors opened, I stepped inside, and that was the last time I ever saw her or spoke to her. 3 months later, things had mostly calmed down. Life started looking something like normal again. Craig's divorce went through in June. Lost the house in the settlement, which his wife got to keep along with primary custody of their kids. Got hit with child support payments for his 2 existing kids, plus the new one, which apparently added up to a serious chunk of his income. Lost his job too once HR finished their investigation and found evidence he'd been giving her favorable performance reviews she didn't actually earn. Ended up taking a position at a smaller insurance company across town. Worse title, way less money, no management responsibilities. Basically had to start over in his 40s with 3 kids to support. My ex moved to Tucson in July after her professional reputation in Phoenix got torched. Nobody in her industry would touch her once the story made the rounds. Her parents found out the whole truth about the affair, and everything else sometime in May. I heard through the family grapevine that her father cut her off completely. Her mother still called occasionally, but things between them were pretty much wrecked. The grandmother who'd posted all those prayer requests in the family group chat was apparently devastated when she learned what her granddaughter had actually done. The Venmo thing worked itself out eventually. Most of the donors got refunds after enough of them complained loudly. Some people didn't bother chasing small amounts. Her mother quietly shut down the fundraising page without any public explanation or apology. They'd collected almost $1,100 before everything collapsed. Most of it got returned one way or another. My brother called a few weeks after the final hearing. I owe you an apology. Should have asked more questions before I assumed the worst about you. It was a confusing situation. Everyone got played. I'm not holding on to it. Work went back to normal once all the outside noise stopped. I kept showing up. Eventually, people found other stuff to gossip about, and I became old news. The project I'd been worried about losing during all the chaos actually got extended through year-end. Still in the 1-bedroom apartment. Lease runs through December. After that, I'm looking at condos on the east side of the valley. No history attached to any room. No memories I didn't put there myself. Rebuilt things with my parents over several dinners and one long talk in early April where I finally told them everything I should have told them decades ago. Mom cried when I laid it all out. Dad just nodded and said he wished I'd trusted them with it sooner. Said he understood why I'd kept it private, but that family was supposed to be the people you don't have to hide things from. They weren't wrong about any of that. Not dating anyone. Won't be for a while. 3 years with someone who could flip a switch and become a different person when it suited her. That's a pattern I need to catch faster if it ever shows up again. But I'm doing fine. Better than fine, honestly. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.